Hey, what's up guys? My name is Zach. I'm going to be spending the next few weeks hanging out with you guys and talking with you guys through our new series we're jumping into called More to the Story. Now for us to kind of understand what this series is going to be all about, talking about more to the story, we got to talk about movies for a second. I want you to do this. Maybe throw it in the comments right now. Let's see who gets the most likes. But out of curiosity, who are my movie lovers who love those suspense movies? You know what I'm talking about? The horror, scary, adrenaline-filled movies. Or maybe you're a Disney person. Anyone love Disney movies? I still personally think the 1993 Lion King was the best movie. But maybe you love action movies. Maybe you're a huge Marvel fan, Star Wars fan, right? What is your favorite style of movies? Throw it in the comments right now. And I know it's kind of sad to bring this up, but it's been a little while since we've actually been able to go to the movies, in an actual movie theater. But if you can remember way back when we actually used to go to a movie theater, one of the most iconic things about going to the movie theater is you would sit in there, you would get your popcorn sitting next to you, you get your drink sitting next to you, you got your popcorn on your lap, and you start eating your popcorn before the movie starts. And what you get to enjoy is the movie trailers. And what's so interesting about movie trailers is they really have 1 to 2 minutes to give you their best version of their movie to get you hooked to want to come back to see them more. And they always have I always remember the action movies, right? They have all the cuts and the explosions, and then at the end there's always that loud then it cuts to black and you're like, oh, this is gonna be good. You know what I'm talking about? What's so amazing about movie trailers is they don't really give you the whole plot, right? In just that 1 to 2 minutes, right? A movie trailer editor wouldn't make sense for them to do that. So what they do is they give you a snapshot of what looks best about that trailer, and it kind of gives you a hook of wanting to come back more, right? Because we know when we watch a movie trailer, there's more to the story. And so here's the thing. For the next few weeks, the subject that we're going to be talking about is kind of like a movie trailer, right? Most of us kind of know this subject. We know enough about it. We've heard it's all around us. We hear about it pretty much everywhere in our culture. But what I want to show us right now is just like a movie trailer, there is more to the story than you might know about this subject. You guys ready? Because here's what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about sex.
What did he say?
I know, what you're probably thinking right now, what in the world did he just say? We can't talk about sex in a church setting. Listen, I get it. It feels a little bit weird, but listen, this is something we need to talk about. We're going to talk about what is God's design for sex, and really why when it comes to sex, there is more to the story, and what does it look like to live with sexual integrity. And listen, like I said, first of all, I get this. This might feel a little bit weird for you to talk about, but let's not play stupid here. Even though you might not talk about it a lot at church, you're hearing about this thing everywhere else in life right now. Come on, singers are singing about it. We know rappers are rapping about it. Netflix shows Don't Try to Hide It. It's everywhere on TikTok right now. Magazines, the grocery store got it on their magazine covers. Movies are using it as a selling point. Your friends are joking about it at school. You're learning about it at school. They're teaching about it. And some of you guys might even have some family that you wish didn't talk about it as much as they do. So here's the thing. Listen to me. Before you tune out and you check out right now and you go, I already know what he's going to talk about. He's going to say, don't have sex before marriage, and God doesn't like sex, and don't do it, and it's bad, and all that stuff.
What if I want to have sex before I get married?
Well, I guess you just have to be prepared to die.
So listen to me here. That's not exactly the approach we're going to take today. Because if there's one thing we want to be here is we want to be real. And we know as Christians, when it comes to this topic of sex, we got a lot of questions about this. Right? Maybe we got questions wondering, man, is it really bad if I think about sex? Is it bad if I do everything but sex? What if I've already had sex? Is it really that bad? What if it wasn't really my choice and I feel like I got kind of pressured in or forced to do it? What does God think about that? Or maybe you're wondering, hey, I can't even get a guy or girl to like me right now, so that temptation isn't even there for me. So maybe should I just check out a little bit during the series and come back when you guys are done with this? Listen, let me just say this. I understand this is a loaded topic to talk about. I know sometimes it can feel like when we talk about this, God only really cares about one thing or one act or one behavior or one mistake. But if that's the way you're thinking, that's not really a quite accurate picture of God's design and God's feelings towards this. Because when it comes to God's plan for sex, what you need to know is there is more to the story. You know what's so amazing is what we're going to read right now is we're going to look at some people who lived thousands of years ago, but we're going to read and understand right now that these people really don't sound all that different than us. And we're going to look at a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the city of Corinth, to a church in Corinth. And Paul is going to be writing to them because they are a group of new Christians, new believers, and they honestly had a lot of questions and they struggled a lot and they had a lot of confusion regarding the topic of sex. And what we want to know before we jump in and we read this, the city of Corinth, what's interesting about where they were located is they were kind of located at a place where a lot of people will come through their city and kind of like stop and stay overnight before they would go to the next city where they would make money. And so the city of Corinth kind of became like this like hub spot of like partying and misbehaving and just wilding out on everything you can imagine, just kind of partying up while they were there before they moved on to their next city. So the people who actually lived there kind of adapted this lifestyle. And so now that there were new Christians who were becoming Christians in this city, they were having a hard time understanding, okay, how do I live as a Christian but not doing everything that culture is doing? And there was one big thing about their culture that is significant, is that when it came to sex, everything was permissible. They pretty much did it all. And so Paul is writing to them, and what's interesting too is because they were new Christians, they kind of had this understanding of like, okay, if Jesus really died for my sins, that means I'm no longer guilty, so now I can go and live however I want and Jesus will just forgive me. And they also had the understanding of, okay, my relationship with God is like a spiritual relationship. Therefore, it doesn't really matter what I do with my body as long as I still have a spiritual relationship with God. Obviously, those are two really bad way of thinking that are going to get you into a lot of trouble. So the Apostle Paul, with a heart of love, he writes them and he begins to say this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12, he says this. He says, I have the right to do anything. And the reason he starts with that, the reason that's kind of interesting, I want to point out, is actually reciting back to them a common phrase that was said a lot during that culture. It's kind of like the same way we say, man, I can do whatever I want. A lot of people say, hey, do whatever as long as it makes you happy. If it makes you happy, do whatever you want. That's essentially what Paul is reciting back to them. And so he says this. He says, I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. See, Paul, he is speaking right into the sex-crazed culture, and he is reminding them, and he's reminding us of this simple truth. It's just because you can do something doesn't always mean that is the best thing for you. You know, for some of us, our lives would be a lot less complicated if we stopped asking questions like this. Hey, can I do this without getting in trouble? Hey, can I do this without getting caught? Some of our lives would just simply be so much better if we started asking questions like this. Man, if I make this decision, is this going to be good for me? Hey, if I make this decision, is this going to grow me closer to Jesus? See, we live in a culture that says, do whatever you want, do whatever makes you happy. And as a result of that, we began to really only think about ourselves and our desires and our happiness, and we don't really think about the other person on the other side of the decisions we make. Jesus says this, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. You see, when we make these decisions to engage sexually with someone, or we try to see how far we can push the boundaries with someone sexually, you know, we don't really understand and think about, hey, not only is this decision affecting my life, it is affecting this other person. And listen, there's a lot of information out there about sex. You're hearing a lot of things right now on how you're supposed to think about this, but listen to me. Here is the truth. God made us as humans, and God made sex. So I think he knows a thing or two about what he's talking about his design and the way that he created this. And here is what God says about it. God says this in Genesis chapter 2. He says, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Listen, God's design for sex is that this thing is so incredibly powerful that it's actually meant to bond a husband and a wife together in marriage. It's actually like the glue that unites two people and keeps them together as one in marriage. That is how powerful it is. It's meant to bring two people together emotionally so that they may never separate. And then obviously on like the logical stance, God also uses this to make babies. It's why we have families. It's the biggest reason why why when people don't understand and follow God's design for the way that He created this, it's why I think one of the biggest problems we have in our society is broken families, because people aren't following God's design for how He created sex and intimacy. You see, what a lot of teenagers don't understand right now is these decisions that you're making right now while you're in high school has the potential to be impacting you for the rest of your life. You see, the decisions that you're making now are sending you down a trajectory, down a path that you may not want to be going down. And when you start making these choices to engage with people sexually, you don't even realize how unfair that is to the future husband or wife that God has in store for you right now. And maybe you're going, but Zach, He said He's going to be my forever. No, He's not. And if He is, if He really means it, then show Him that you're worth the wait. Let me just say this right now. There's so much more we're going to unpack and get into a little bit deeper as we unpack this more in this series. But here's the first step we need to take today. As followers of Jesus, we can and we should become people of sexual integrity. Integrity just means being honest about who you say you are. See, sexual integrity is more than just saying, I'm going to save sex for marriage, or I'm going to feel guilty about it, I've already done it. It's choosing to honor God and others with how you think, with how you treat, and with how you value people you date. Listen to me, no matter what has happened in your past, this is about moving forward. See, if you've had sex or already went pretty far with a boy or a girl, maybe you've looked at pornography right now, I want you to understand that you are not broken. And this is not over for you. That you are loved by God and that Jesus can wipe away every single sin and give you a fresh start to move forward. God will always love you, but we got to understand the decisions we make in this life have real consequences. And let's be honest right now. I understand what it feels like for you. It sure feels right now like, man, everyone is having sex, or at least everyone is trying to have sex. That is why, as a follower of Jesus, you have to take this so seriously. Choosing to have sexual integrity is a decision you need to make right now. And decide for yourself, I'm going to choose to make this decision so that before I'm entered into that tempting situation, before I'm presented with the opportunity, I have already made up my mind to be someone who is going to follow Jesus and be a person who lives with sexual integrity. Because when you do that, man, you are making decisions that are going to save you from so much regret down the road. So listen, it's really easy. We just do this. We pray and we ask God for strength. God understands. He knows what you're feeling. Pray and ask God to really help begin to change your heart, and pray and tell God, hey God, I'm going to dedicate myself to be someone who follows you with sexual integrity. Listen, God has such an incredible love for you. When you choose to honor and obey God like this, you can trust and believe that God will bless your life. Listen, I understand that this is going to feel hard, and when you make the right decision, even when it's hard, God sees that, and you are not alone in doing so. And I want you just to imagine what it's like to live this kind of lifestyle, to choose to live with sexual integrity, and I promise you, if you begin to put this as a priority in your life, begin to trust God in leading this part of your life when it comes to sex, when it comes to living differently than everyone else is living, trusting that God's way is the best way, you're going to begin to find out that when it comes to God's design for sex, there is more to the story. No matter what your past is, choose to move forward today, knowing that Jesus can take away everything from our past and we can step into looking forward and to move forward today. Choose to live forward with sexual integrity. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.